Yep. Good evening, councillors, ladies and gentlemen. I am Councillor Mohammed Ayub, Chair of Traffic Management Subcommittee. I would like to welcome you to Traffic Management Subcommittee, which is being held online as permitted by Coronavirus Act 2020. The public and the press can observe this meeting by following the link from our website. Agenda paper, including the update pack, have been published on the Council's website. To help those who are observing the meeting, we'll be presenting some of the information on slide as we go through the agenda. Before we start, councillors attending will be asked to introduce themselves, as this is for the benefit of the public and also to ensure that all are in attendance expected that they can hear and speak to the meeting. Members have been asked to make me aware if they wish to speak on items in advance, and you can also notify me when you're speaking, when you wish to speak in the chat box section of the screen, and then wait to be called. When you're not speaking, please will councillors put their microphones on mute. When called to speak, please unmute your microphone and pause briefly to allow for a slight time delay. It is possible the loss of connection may happen, but as long as there are 3 members still in the meeting, we will be quoried. Now, I will do a roll call for councillors. As I say your name, could you please introduce yourself to the meeting? I'll start. I am Councillor Mohammed Ayub, Chair of Traffic Management Subcommittee, and I represent Abbey Ward. Now, I will call on other members of the committee alphabetically. Councillors, please state your name and your ward you represent. So, can I call on Councillor Debs Absalom?
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Debs Absalom, Norcott Ward. Councillor, unlike it says on the slide, I'm not Southcote. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Dave Absalom.
Just hold on a minute. I'm on traffic management. I was on planning last night.
Hello. Yep. Councillor,
sorry,
can you put your mic on the mute?
Good evening, Chair. Councillor David Absalom, Redlands Ward.
Thank you, Councillor Absalom. Councillor Adele Barnett Ward.
Good evening, Adele Barnett Ward, Caversham Ward Councillor.
Thank you. Councillor Paul Carnell.
Thank you, Chairman. Good evening, everyone. Councillor Paul Carnell, a Thames Ward Councillor.
Thank you. Councillor Ricky Devine. Do we have Councillor Ricky Devine?
Sorry, just missed the mute button. Ricky Devine, Lib Dem Councillor for Tilehurst Ward.
Thank you, Councillor Devine. Councillor John Ennis.
Here I am. Hold on a minute. Hello, Councillor John Ennis, Southcote Ward.
Thank you. Councillor Sarah Hacker.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Sarah Hacker, Councillor for Backward Ward.
Councillor Tony Page.
Good evening, Councillor Tony Page, Abbey Ward, and the Lead Councillor for Strategic Environment Planning and Transport and Deputy Leader of the Council. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Raj Singh.
Good evening, everyone. Councillor Raj Singh, Kentwood Ward.
Thank you. Councillor Jane Stanford Beale.
Good evening, Chair. Councillor Stanford Beale, Peppard Ward. Thank you.
Councillor Liz Terry.
Good evening, Chair. Councillor Liz Terry, Vinster Ward Councillor.
Thank you. Councillor Jamie Whittingham.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor Jamie Whittam, Redlands Ward.
Thank you, councillors. Now I will also like to introduce you to the officers who are in attendance tonight. It's only fair. Right. Simon Beasley is the council network and parking service manager. James Penman is the council assistant network manager. Jenny Hazel and Richard Woodford are the committee service officers who are taking minutes of this meeting and producing the live broadcast as well. With the inductions out of the way, let us now turn to the agenda. The agenda papers have been published on the council's website and Modern Gov app. This includes 2 additional late items: a petition against cycle lane in Sidmouth Street, and also to consider objection raised by the Thames Valley Police of banning the right turning movement in the junction of Abattoir Road with Caversham Road. We will get to these items in due course. For voting on the items of this meeting in part 1 of the agenda, I will ask, are we content to proceed, and pause for 5 seconds. I will take silence to mean that all members are agreed. Members indicated that they are not content to proceed. On that basis, then I will do a call out roll, asking members to confirm whether they are for or against the recommendation action. Now, the first item I have is declaration of interest. So I had nobody, so that we have none. Minutes of the meeting held on the January 2021. Can I ask those are correct minutes?
Correct.
Thank you.
Agreed.
All right. And then if the minutes are correct, is that there are no matters arising, then I'll move down to question 3. Item 3, questions from member of public and councillors. We have none. So can I move to item 4, please, on the screen? That is petition. The first petition we have received 2 petitions. The first one is to implement 20-mile zone in the residence street of Oxford Road. I understand Councillor Joe Lovelock for Norcote Ward wishes to speak on behalf of the petitioners. So can I welcome Councillor Joe Lovelock, please, to speak. You have 5 minutes, Councillor Lovelock.
Thank you very much, Chair, for the opportunity to speak. This is a survey that we carried out in the area off the Oxford Road, which covers Norcote Ward, Battle Ward, and a small part of Kentwood Ward, and we extended that up to Water Road and Grovelands Road, where we also get a lot of complaints about speeding. Over time, most of us as the local ward councillors have had complaints about people speeding through particularly the narrow side streets, but also, as I say, roads like Grovelands Road and Water Road. There have been a number of incidents which have caused people obviously a lot of concern. So we decided it would be a good idea to do a survey of people's views in that area, and we did that in January. Obviously we had to do it virtually because of lockdown and COVID, but we got a good response between all three wards. We got a good response. Over 80% of people who responded agree that there's far too much speeding in that area and would like to see a speed limit of 20 miles an hour. 83% of the people who responded live locally. Only less than 17% did not think it was an issue. So I think fairly overwhelming desire to see something done to try and slow traffic down. And also, interestingly, over 70% of our respondents think that the council should be given the power to enforce this. As people will know on this committee, the police currently have that power, but they admit that they don't have the resources to deal with speeding in those sorts of narrow side roads. So residents agree that the council should be given the power to enforce this and make sure that that enforcement takes place. So I hope that the committee will agree that this amount of evidence that we have gathered in a fairly short period of time does warrant further work by the council to look at how it might be possible to reduce speeds in those streets. And I would just like to check while I'm speaking that when it says it will be brought back to a future meeting, I understood it to be agreed that that would be to the next meeting of this committee in June. So if whoever responds could just confirm that, that would be helpful. Thank you very much. And we look forward to helping to make those streets in our wards safer places for everybody. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks. Thank you, Councillor Lovelock. Now, I know Councillor Hack has ended to speak, but I will come to that. First, I'll want to ask Mr. Simon Beasley, does he wish to say anything on the report, on the petition? 20 mile.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to say that, yes, of course, should the committee accept this petition, officers will take it away and carry out the investigation and report back. And that future meeting, Councillor Lovelock, will indeed be June. We're happy to confirm that.
Thank you, Mr. Beasley. Can I ask Councillor Hacker she want to speak on the item to come in?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'm just speaking to say how pleased I am to see this come to traffic management. It's a good piece of joint working between Kentwood, Battle and Norfolk Labour councillors, and it clearly shows that residents want their streets slower and safer. And we mustn't forget that these residential side streets are just that, they are residential. And I hope that during the last year, when we've had various lockdowns and restricted movement, people have found that it's easier to get around on foot. I know, for example, my car is very rarely used at the moment, and it just means that if we have these 20-mile-an-hour zones, and when things start to return to normal, we won't have, hopefully, speeding in side streets and people being put in danger. It is particularly a problem in parts of Battle Ward where people use an area around Catherine Street, Curzon Street to zigzag and speed through like it's some kind of challenge. So it's going to be a really good thing, and it's part of ambitions that the Battle Ward councillors have for the Oxford Road and surrounding area to actually put it back to residential use. Now we have Cow Lane bridges in place, there really is no reason for through traffic to use the Oxford Road, and so we'd like to see changes and enhancements made, and this 20-mile-an-hour limit in the side streets, if accepted through the statutory consultation, goes ahead, then that's one step forward to getting these streets back to the residents and away from the cars. Cheers.
Right, thank you, Councillor Hacker. Does any other councillor wishes to speak on this item?
Chair, can I speak on this item, please?
Yes, go ahead, Councillor Abzal.
And totally backing Councillor Hacker. We've both been members of this committee for quite a while, and as we're adjoining wards, we've always wanted to join up our 20-mile-an-hour zones from where they finish in Battle right up to where they start again in D Park. This has been a long request from residents in the area. We have a school that's gone for school streets. We have streets in this area that like to do the play areas. So it is very, very welcomed by the residents. So I'm glad to see this submitted. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Alban. I don't have any more indications, so can we content to agree with the officer's recommendations and bring it?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Now we'll move to the second petition, which is against cycle lanes in Sidmouth Street. We have received this from officers' report. Mr. Beasley, do you wish to introduce this report?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just to say that should the committee receive the report, officers would just take it away and investigate and report back on their findings.
Right, thank you. Councillor Page, do you wish to speak?
Yes, Chair, thank you. Mr. Quadri, the organiser of the petition, sent it to me a few, well, not so long ago, 23rd of February, so only just over a week ago. And I forwarded it on to officers so that it could be registered this evening. I have also replied to Mr. Quadri, and I'll just take this opportunity to remind colleagues that on the 24th of February, the day after Mr. Quadri's petition was received, the council formally launched its important consultation on the next phase of segregated cycle lanes and walking pedestrian facilities in Reading. And that is now out for consultation for 2 months. Neighbourhoods will be receiving individual postcards in the areas. But the important point that I also made to Mr. Quadri is that one of the schemes that we are consulting on is the full length of London Road from the borough boundary right the way up to the junction with Crown Street. Another scheme resumes at Crown Street and goes down Southampton Street to the Oracle and a bit beyond. And therefore it delivers a missing link, not only east-west, but also importantly offers a connection with Sidmouth Street. And so opposition based on a very narrow focus on just Sidmouth Street should perhaps be focused on the wider benefits and the potential for other lanes to join up. And that is the point that I've made to Mr. Quadri and invited him to look at the consultations and respond accordingly. And I would urge colleagues as well to spread the word that we are now consulting until the end of April on those 4 major schemes, only 1 or 2 of which we can take forward with the current funding, but nonetheless offer an important opportunity for everybody to comment on some very important proposals. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Page. Noted, and I don't see any other indication, so we agree with recommendation action. Agree? No. Noted.
Agreed.
Thank you. Next item is item 5 we have, which is waiting restrictions review. This report informs the subcommittee of objection received during the statutory consultation for agreement proposal that was informed 2020 proposal, as well as a list of new requests potential included in 2021A program. Can I ask Mr. James Penman to introduce the report?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So, as the Chair's noted, the report's in 2 parts. So, Part A is reporting back feedback that we received on the statutory consultation for all of the items that form part of the 2020 programme. So, this is quite a large scheme, and we're asking members to consider those comments, particularly objections, and whether they wish to implement the restrictions, remove those changes of restriction from the programme, or whether they'd like to propose a slightly altered scheme for implementation instead. And part B, as the Chair's mentioned, are the list of new requests that we've received, and we're asking members to decide whether they proceed to an investigation stage where officers can design proposals, share them with members, and report those proposals to the next meeting. I shared with members of the committee a statement this morning, which is a clarification over Part A with a couple of specific schemes. And Chair, if I may, for members that may not have seen that clarification, I'd just like to read through that now for absolute clarity on those items. So, as I mentioned, as Part A, we went out to statutory consultation on a number of schemes. Two of those schemes in Redlands Ward were Marlborough Avenue and Elmhurst Road. For Marlborough Avenue, whilst the proposed changes to those parking restrictions on the initial drawings and in the advertised textual notices were correct, we regret that some of the early drawings did not accurately reflect some of the existing restrictions on street. These drawings were swiftly amended, and the correction fulfilled our statutory obligation in the promotion of these changes. So consequently, there is no impact to what we are proposing here, and subject to you reviewing the consultation feedback, these proposals, or the proposal in Marlborough Avenue, may proceed. We raise this with you only because we received some early feedback regarding those drawings, and we apologise for any initial confusion that this may have caused. Regarding Elmhurst Road, the changes proposed to the existing Monday to Friday restrictions were to extend the restrictions to all 7 days of the week, so Monday to Sunday, and also to increase the time restriction from 8 AM to 5:30 PM to an 8 AM to 8 PM scheme. So whilst the drawings that accompanied the consultation correctly reflected the proposed changes, it's with regret that there was an error on the advertised traffic regulation order, and that error was on the on-street notices, and only the time change was advertised and not the change to the Monday Sunday. So the impact is that the Elmhurst Road proposals will need to be removed from this advertised TRO, and we will need to re-advertise them again separately, and will do so as soon as possible. Officers will provide details as soon as the advertising dates are confirmed and the 21-day consultation can commence. As per the original recommendation, should no objections be received, officers will implement the restriction as advertised to the same timeline as the remainder of this programme. Should objections be received, we will report those to the June meeting of this subcommittee, and should those changes be agreed for implementation, we will deliver them soon after. So again, to please accept our sincere apologies for this error. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Penman. So those Marlborough and Elmhurst will be removed. Now I will go through the board set Appendix 1 seeking agreement whether to introduce the scheme or remove any other ones or make any changes through them. I'll be inviting ward councillor to comment on if they wish to do so. So Appendix 1. The first one I have is Princess Street. Councillor Page.
No, Chair, with respect, it's Barry Place. The amended list sent to us has one objection and one comment. Could I, Chair, just say that UI and Councillor Rowland wrote to a number of residents in the area, conscious of the fact that people are more confined at home and therefore less likely to see some of the on-street advertising. And we wrote to all the residents in Barry Place and in Cardiff Road and also Swansea Road, not the whole length of Swansea Road, up to number 25 Swansea Road and 24 in the Evens. And so every household had a letter setting out the reasons for the proposal, and we've received just one objection and one comment as well. Chair, on that basis, I would like to propose that we move ahead with this, because the intention is to not only impose these parking restrictions and tidy up the area, but also to subsume Barry Place within the neighbouring residents' parking area and regularise the whole situation for the benefit of local residents. So, Chair, I would propose that we proceed with the Barry Place proposals.
Thank you, Councillor Page. Sorry, that was the one missing on my page. From okay, I'll be in sport with that. And the next one we have is Princess Street, which I think we had quite a few objections to it. And
yes, Chair, we also wrote to all the residents in Princess Street about this proposal and received a large number of objections. One particularly well-argued objection was from a resident who works for the ambulance service, who is able to certainly turn his vehicle and would welcome the space being retained rather than the proposal to introduce no waiting and therefore lose some of the residents' parking. He maintains that it's perfectly possible to turn within the existing turning head, and so indeed do a large number of other residents. Bearing in mind this is a cul-de-sac and is virtually used exclusively by residents of Princess Street, your view and mine and Councillor Rowland's is that we should withdraw this proposal and not proceed with the Princess Street changes. And I would therefore propose not proceeding with AB3 in Princess Street, Chair.
thank you. That's to be withdrawn. Thank you, Councillor Page. Star Road, we have the next
Chair,
one.
Chair, if I may.
Yes, come in.
Thank you. Caversham Ward would support this going forward. This was a request from residents and we've got a support and we've had no objections.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Ward. Anybody else to comment on there? No, I don't see any indication. And the next one I have is Tamarack Avenue, which is Tamarack Avenue, which is are we in for support of that one, or comments on that one from the councillors?
Chair, could we ask for some officer clarification on this? I unfortunately haven't got all the background documentation to this. There's been 4 objections here. Could officers just summarise what the purpose was of the proposal?
Thank you, Chair. If I may, I can hopefully help on that. The original request for this was to resolve some visibility issues that's caused by parking down both sides of the street on approach to the junction. So I'm aware that a lot of the objections, understandably, are against the loss of parking, and also some suggestion that if it could be limited to residents-only parking, that might help. But the original request was just the parking of vehicles causing those visibility issues on the approach to the junction.
Thank you. So are we looking to withdraw that one? Yep.
I think, Chair, on the basis of the level of opposition, I would suggest we don't proceed with that at the present time.
Okay, right. Can I have Mr. Next one I have is Waldex Street. Can I ask James Penman just to give us a bit of an update on that one, because that is the one missing from my papers, but I've made a note of that. So can I ask the officers to give me some figures on that one?
Yes, of course, Chair. So again, this one was broadly speaking, a 10-metre passing place, which had restrictions placed on it, no waiting at any time. And we had a request to essentially remove that passing place, extend the resident permit parking restriction to increase parking availability on the street. And in response to the consultation, we've had an objection and a one element of support for that as well.
Chair.
Yes.
Sorry, it's Adele. Sorry, if I can just come in. I've just got a query for Mr. Penman on this for Waldex Street. I'm confused because the objection appears to be for the same reason as the support, and also you'll note there's a comment from an application further down has been pasted on the end of the support. So it makes me wonder whether there's an error elsewhere in the box as well. We've got part of the one from the Ruskin scheme has been put in here.
Councillor James, I'm sorry, James Penman.
My apologies, Chair. I'll need to look at that. As I say, I've got the report as is presented here. So apologies. That's not something I can answer at this time.
So are we looking to withdraw that one, Councillor Page? Councillors of subcommittees? Or do we proceed?
Chair, given the confusion and possible accidental cut and paste, I think we might have to withdraw this one for further research.
Could it be brought back, sorry to butt it, could it be brought back to the next subcommittee? We won't be out of time, will we, to take a decision on that?
Yeah.
Officers?
Chair, we could, and Councillor Page, we could certainly bring that back. We wouldn't be able to seal the resultant traffic regulation order for the remainder of the programme if we did defer, but we could defer it and bring this just back to June for a clarification.
No, but not if that delay. Are you saying that everything on this list is then delayed?
They are part of one single traffic regulation order. So for us to be able to seal the order and implement any of the schemes, we would need to decide on all of them.
Well, we can't delay all these other schemes until June on the basis of a deferral on this one. Is there any way that we could delegate this?
James?
Apologies for the delay there. If a decision was made by the subcommittee that an officer and members could have delegated authority to make that decision, I don't see any reason why not.
Well, could I propose that the chair and vice chair be asked to look at this further and then take a decision on that particular on the Waldex Street?
Yep, that's fine.
If other colleagues are agreeable to that.
In consultation with the Board of Councillors, hopefully.
Agreed.
Oh, well, yeah, that Ricky Duvin's quite right. Yes, I had assumed that would be the case, but yeah, in conjunction with the ward councillors, the chair, vice chair, and officers consult with ward councillors and then take an appropriate decision.
Right. Yes, that's in agreement. Yeah, agreed.
I'm fine with that, Councillor.
Yeah. Right. Thank you, Councillor Dabs. Right, the next one is Ledbury Close. I think we have full support for that one. Agreed. I'll move on to that one. And I've got another one which is missing. Can I ask James to give us an update? It's Pinewood Drive.
Thank you, Chair. So we had a request in here. We had reported difficulties with large vehicles, particularly refuge vehicles entering the street and conducting turning manoeuvres. So the proposal was to address that. We've had, in response, 3 objections and 2 responses of support for the proposal. And the proposal was to essentially put in place double yellow line restrictions down the initial narrow section of the street around the corner and to a turning head which is broadly halfway along.
Right. So can we produce, withdraw that one or go forward to put it to the subcommittee? We are in agreement with that one? Yep.
Yep. Yes, fine.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, I'll move to the next one then, which is Drayton Road.
Thank you, Chair. I'm happy to go ahead with this. This is duplicating the double yellow lines on the street next to it. The one objection, I don't see how it affects their accessibility to their property. Plus, also, the supporters who put this forward haven't obviously registered, so there would be more support than one objection. Thank you.
Okay, fine. Thank you. We agree with Drayton Road. Can I call, I think just for a bit of a clarification on Ledbury Close, I know there's objections as well on there too. Can I just get a bit of an update from Mr. Beasley on that one? Mr. Beasley?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just to pick up on, sorry, Ledbury Drive, it's gone across into the other page. So on Ledbury Drive, there's actually been 6 representations made, 4 of which at the bottom of one page are 3 residents in support, 1 comment, and on the following page there are actually 2 objections from residents. So just to raise that with the subcommittee, Chair, that those objections do need to be acknowledged, even if you then still choose to take this one forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Beasley. Are we all in agreement with Mr. Beasley's comments here, subcommittee?
Yep.
Agreed.
Okay, fine, thank you. Next one I have is Fraser Avenue, which I think we're in support with that one. Can I ask the subcommittee for agreement? Yep.
Yep.
And then the next item I have is Kingsway, which can I ask one of the councillors, ward councillors, if they wish to speak on that one? I think it's in support of that one.
Yeah, we've had a lot of complaints about parking in that area, so this would definitely be benefit to people.
Okay, in support of that one. Thank you, Councillor Beale. And the next item, I'll have to ask James or Simon to come in. It's Ruskin Close, which I've got no information on. I'm sorry, it was in my GovCup and I couldn't get any information. So can I get a bit of background on that for objections and for support? Ruskin Close, I think that's...
Of course, thank you, Chair. So, so again, this was another one that's been raised with concerns about visibility due to the parking. It's quite a narrow street and leading up to Henley Road and on a bend as well. So the request was around sort of addressing those issues. So in response to the consultation that we've conducted, We've had 2 comments of support, quite short and to the point, who seem to be suggesting that this is necessary.
Okay, so we're in support of that one. Agreed subcommittee on that one? Yeah.
Agreed.
Right. And the next item I have is Corbridge Road, which is in support. I'm looking at ward councillors. I did have a support for this one. Corbridge Road.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, in support. As you can see, there's only a couple of responses there in support of.
Yeah. Fine, thank you.
I'm supporting as well.
Thank you, Councillor Whitting. And the next item I have is Dubovia Road, which I think we've got quite a few objections and comments. So,
Chair, if I may come in at this point, I'm sure Councillor Whittam will want to speak as well. We've had 8 objections, 6 support, but I've also had one on the phone that was too late to be recorded for this. It's interesting that the support is to Beauvoir Road. Most objections are not Beauvoir, they're neighbouring streets. When it's as tight as this, almost 50-50, I'm very uncomfortable about implementing anything. Personally, I would propose we withdraw this particular proposal and we go back to the drawing board. Myself and the other ward councillors will sit down with residents and come up with a plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Absley. Councillor Whittingham, you want to comment on that withdrawal?
Thanks. Yeah. I think it's the wrong scheme as well. I think it needs some more visitors' hours, or maybe to incorporate part of Eastern Avenue or something like that. So I'm happy to withdraw it as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Whittingham. Next one I have is which have been already withdrawn, Elmhurst Road and the next one I have is Silchester Road, Southcote. Councillor John Ennis.
Yes, like to get that one moved through and moved as quick as possible. Thank you very much.
Right, that's in for support of that. Thank you, Councillor Ennis. The next one I have is Beverley Road, which is in support. So I'm looking for the councillors from the ward.
Yep. We're happy to go ahead with this one. We've only had one response, which is supportive, and in fact he suggested extending the double yellow lines even further. But we'll take this as it is at the moment, and if we need to, or we want to extend the red double yellow lines later on, we can always come back with another suggestion.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Devine. That's in support. I have Alweston Road. I think that's in your patch as well.
Yeah, Elveston Way is one of ours, and yeah, there is one objection, but I've been up and down that road several times knocking on doors, and I'm happy to say that most of the residents are actually in favour. So yeah, I've no problems with going ahead on that one.
Right, thank you. Support for that one. I just want to make it clear to Mr. Beasley, do you want to come in? The Marlborough Road, which Avenue, sorry, which are it's been withdrawn as well due to timing. Mr. Beasley.
Yeah, thank you, Chair.
Oh,
yeah, sorry,
yes.
just for absolute clarification, Marlborough Road is correct. So there is no issue. Referring back to Mr. Penman's statement, there is no issue with Marlborough Road. So that was advertised correctly, and we can go ahead. James, do you want to come in? Mr. Penman, do you want to come in and just absolutely clarify that Marlborough, as advertised, was correct. The drawings and the statement, the text were correct. So you are making a decision on that one tonight.
That is correct. So if we, although they're on the same plan, if we treat these as two separate schemes, it's Elmhurst Road that we're going to have to withdraw. Marlborough Avenue, you can take a decision on tonight.
Chair, may I just have a quick question?
Yes, Councillor.
Yeah, sorry for butting in, not going for the correct chat channel. Unfortunately, Marlborough wasn't independently written in the Appendix 1. What consequences would going ahead with Marlborough have on Elmhurst? Because they're connected. I mean, those two are always sort of like joined at the hip. I'm happy if officers are confident there is no sort of conflict of interest for Elmhurst to go ahead with Marlborough, seeing as we're not going ahead with Elmhurst, if that makes any sense.
Thank you, Councillor. So in terms of the scheme itself, we will be re-advertising Elmhurst, so a decision can be taken on Marlborough. If we don't receive any objections to Elmhurst, we can deliver that as well, and we'll deliver them together. If there are objections to Elmhurst, we'll bring it back to June, and we can still ensure that they are delivered alongside each other. If that helps the decision tonight.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Penman. I got a little bit confused with the wording. Clarifies it, and I'm happy to go ahead.
Okay, thank you, councillors. Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Yeah,
sorry.
Okay, yeah, I was just saying that I was happy with Marlborough as well. So go ahead,
Councillor Whittingham. Thank you. Right, I'll move ahead with the Hemdene Road. I have Ward Councillor wants to speak on this. Stanford B.
Chairman, I'm the Ward Councillor.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Canal. Sorry, my apologies.
With Hemdene Road, it's difficult. From reading the comments, it does seem there is an issue with parking here, but the scheme as proposed has very limited support. I'd be minded to withdraw it and perhaps revisit it at a later date, see if we can do something a little different. But I'd listen to other comments first before making a final decision.
Thank you,
Chairman.
For now, can I call Councillor Barnett Ward as well?
Thank you, Chair. So I live very near this scheme, and I'm a parent at Caversham Primary, which and we use this pavement actually as one of our 2 routes to walk into school. I think you would have seen a lot more support if the school had been fully open when this was advertised. I think it's the first point to make. The pavement parking along here is a problem for all pedestrians, but particularly for residents. Now, I'm not proposing that we approve a scheme that has 25 objections and full support, but I do want to draw the committee's attention to the content of those objections, because I think 2 things are clear from those objections. The first thing is that the people who are objecting don't know why the scheme has been proposed, because they seem to think that it is to do with improving the speed of traffic on Hemdene Road. They haven't understood that it is to get the cars off the pavement. And in fact, I'm a bit concerned that by having given them this idea, that they may now even put their cars further onto the pavement and cause even more problems for pedestrians. Because the other thing that's clear is that the people who've responded opposing this scheme are the people who are parking on the pavement and causing the problem that the scheme sought to resolve. I don't know if Councillor Connell, if he was listening earlier on in this section when Councillor Page was talking about what you and your Abbey Ward colleagues did for the schemes in your ward. And I think that's the sort of on the ground ward work that needs to happen here, because these primarily residents, although school parents parking for the school run also do it. It's not just the residents, absolutely not. But the councillors need to get in touch with people. They need to write letters when we're allowed, which will be soon. They need to be knocking on doors. They need to be explaining the problem, explaining the legal position around pavement parking. I had one person email me as a member of traffic management sub. They may have emailed everybody else, I don't know. And I did explain that you're not actually allowed to park on pavements because you've then driven on a pavement, not at a dropped curb, which I think was a surprise to him. So I suggest that, yes, we pull this, but I would ask on behalf of my fellow Caversham Primary parents and everybody else who has to try and negotiate those pavements on foot, please don't leave it here. Please talk to the people causing the problem, talk to the officers and bring back another scheme to try and prevent people from parking on the pavements on Hemdean Road. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barnett-Ward. I have Councillor Stanfield-Bede indicating to speak on. Councillor Stanfield-Bede.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I live quite close to the school and my children attended it for many years, and as Councillor Barnett-Ward said, it's very difficult to negotiate around the parked cars. And when I had my youngest in a buggy, it was nigh on impossible. You'd have to go out into the road to get past because you just couldn't squeeze past the parked cars. We used to say that sometimes parents, they just want to park as close as possible to school and they don't think about the consequences. And that is unfortunately a problem. We actually had one parent who lived at the corner of Oakley Road and Kidmore Road, and she would drive to school at the bottom of the road, literally. I mean, Councillor Barnett-Ward will know what a short journey that was, and then park her 4x4 on Hemdean Road on the pavement, which isn't good behaviour. And we are supposed to be trying to educate our children, are we not? So we need to get a scheme that works. I mean, one of the issues that I was going to mention is that because of the way people park, it's sometimes very difficult for the number 24 bus to get up. And the bus stop that we have at the end of Hemdean Road, Rotherfield Way, that is the most used bus stop north of the river. We have the most boardings there. So, you know, it's a popular bus route and we don't want the bus to be stopped because it can't get past parked cars that have not been parked properly. And, you know, we need to do more work with the school also about trying to get a shift so parents are walking their children to school, not taking them in cars. So I think enough said on that one. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Whitlaw. So thank you, councillors, and I think that we'll withdraw that one and some more works need to be done on that one, brought back to the next committee. So yeah, our subcommittee agreement with that one. Yeah.
Agreed.
All right, we'll move on to the next one. Thank you, everyone. We'll move on to the next. Actually, 3, which I've made note that hasn't come through to me. So I'm asking James if he can get in a bit of a background on those, because I haven't had them in. I've been having problems with my link there. It's Ridgeway. Well, first one is Ridgeway, and can I get a bit of an update on that one? And the second one is Fair Island Way, and the third one is Greenfield Road in Whitley. So can we start with if possible, Ridgeway first, please? Mr.
Of course, Chair. Thank you. So, so this was a proposal that was to address difficulties with access and turning. So it's essentially putting additional restrictions around a turning head. And we've had one response to that, which was a response of support.
Support. So I'll put that to the councillors, ward councillors. You happy with the support there? Yep. So
agreed.
I don't hear any. Yeah. Okay. The next one, Mr. Penman, is the Fairway Island Way. Can we get a bit of an update? Just.
Yes, of course. So Fair Isle Way, it's another proposal that's put forward in Whitley wards, and this was again around visibility issues. We've had 2 responses to that, and they are both in support of the restriction.
Right. Thank you. So can I ask the Whitley councillors for any comments or support on that one? Yeah. Agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you. And Greenfield Road, Whitley again. Can I get an update on that one, James?
Thank you, Chair. So the last one, and this is in Whitley again. Again, there were visibility concerns raised. This is just extending the double yellow lines that were around the junction with Faradine Road, just by an extra 5 metres on either side to improve that visibility. We've had one response, and that was an objection to that proposal.
Right. So I'm looking at the ward councillors. Yep. Any comments on that one?
Agreed.
Agreed. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. So next item we have is Appendix 2, 21 area restrictions are sorry. Next item we have is item 6, resident permanent parking proposal for statutory consultation.
No.
So,
sure.
Sorry. Go ahead.
Well, Chair, you're not taking Appendix 2?
Yeah, sorry.
Waiting restrictions.
Oh, sorry, beg your pardon. Yeah, that's that in the paper.
It's on page 61, Chair. We've got to.
Yeah. Appendix 2, request for waiting restrictions. Apologies, subcommittee. I've seemed to overlap that one. Yeah, I'll take that by ward, if that's okay. Yeah.
Can we? It would help if we could have the correct agenda item on the screen as well. We've had agenda item 6 up for ages, even though we're nowhere near it. Chair, would help.
Yeah, sorry. Can we have Appendix 2? Yeah, on the.
Suppose that we
it was a confusing bit I got as well. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Chair, can I propose that with regard to the One Abbey ward request, we allow that to go forward?
Yep. Thank you, Councillor Page. Caversham one.
Yeah, Chair. Happy for Douglas Road and Caversham to go forward, but I wondered if I could get an officer comment on Cromwell Road. And my concern here is that the last time I saw how full this parking scheme was, I think it was 104%. And I note what the officers have said about the accessibility for this resident, but I'd be very surprised if residents would support removing parking spaces from a scheme that is already so very pressed. So I would wonder if officers could give me a view on how big a problem this is for the resident who's trying to get out of their driveway, and how justifiable it is to remove parking from residents who don't have driveways as a result.
James, would you like to respond?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I completely understand the challenge, and I think we've seen with a lot of the objections tonight, there are challenges that people are facing, and we get a lot of objections back when this is going to affect parking availability in those very densely parked areas where there is that high demand. So yeah, Councillor Barnett-Ward, I completely understand what you're saying. It is likely to receive some objection from the area, but as I say, we've had the request in. It's causing some issues, and this is why we're going through this process. We could take this out at this point, or if you're happy to do so, discuss further with you through the review process and take a decision in time for the next meeting.
Chair, I'd very much like to take that offer up with the ward councillors. Obviously, I don't want to yank this out if the resident is having severe problems, but I can't see the other residents in the area supporting it. So it would be good to be able to have that separate discussion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Are the other councillors happy? I don't see anybody agreeing with that, so we'll take that one. I'll move to the next item, which is in Church Ward, Shinfield Road. I will ask Ward Council request to investigate restrictions on parking of residents. Shinfield Road, Church Ward. Are we happy with that, Church? To go ahead? Agreed. Okay.
And Cates Grove.
Cates Grove, we got Alec Garrett Close, double yellow lines on the area, public highway with the junction of Northumberland Avenue. Cates Grove councillors, are you?
There aren't they, but they support that, Chair.
Yeah.
Okay, we're in support with that one. And
Cates Grove.
And yeah, and the next item we got in the paper says Cates Grove, Oak Tree Road, but it's not. That's in Kentwood.
It's Kentwood.
So, yeah, I know. That's why I'm correcting that. So it's Kentwood. So request for extended double yellow lines. So Kentwood. Any councillors want to respond on that one? Agreement. So we agree with that one, and the next one is Romney Close, as well in Kentwood. Request for double yellow lines. We agree with that one. Take forward.
Yeah, agree. Yeah.
Okay, right. Then we have Minster Ward, Edenham Crescent.
Chair, I'm happy for that to stay in the programme and go forward.
Okay, fine. And then we got next one is Longbridge Close, which I think Councillor Debs Absalom's indicated she wants to speak on that one. Request to investigate waiting restrictions.
Thank you, Chair. In reply to the officer's comments, it should, if the RPP scheme, which is in the agenda item 6, actually goes through informal, formal consultation and is passed, then it will happen anyway. But I would ask for this to remain just in case, especially since the refuge services are asking for double yellow lines so they can get into that close. Thank you.
Thank you. Can those be noted, please? And the next two we have is in Park Ward, Crescent Road and Sun Street. So I'm looking at Park Councillor, nothing, or I didn't hear anything, so we're
happy with those.
So happy with those. Next one I have 4 in Redlands, which are Hexham Road, Newcastle Road, and Redlands Road.
Chair, if I may, I think Hexham Road should be withdrawn, apart from the fact it's already failed on a consultation once before. And that's definitely, but the other 3 I'm happy to support staying in.
Right, withdraw that one. Can we make a note of that? Yep. Thank you. Southcote, the next one we have is Liebenhood Road. I think that's to go forward.
Yeah, I'd like that to go forward. Yeah, I would, please, because there's going to be ongoing issues in that area. Please send that forward. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Ennis. Then we have another one, Southcote Lane. You're happy with that one as well? Southcote Lane?
Yes. Yes, happy with that.
Okay. The next ward is Thames Ward, Wernfield Drive. For request for double yellow lines to go forward. I think that's happy. I didn't get any indication. Anything from subcommittee?
Thank you, Chairman. Just to say, yes, I'm happy for that to go forward.
Thank you, Councillor Cornell. Yep. Right. And then I have 2 from Tyler's, which is Bevan Close and Fern Close.
Yeah, it's Bevan Close, Chair. It needs looking at because it's a school parking issue. So I'm very happy to keep that one on. And I think there's also some work being requested on speeding down there as well. But essentially, it's just, the issue is all to do with school pickup times and drop-off times. Fern Glenn, happy to go ahead with as well.
Okay, thank you.
Visibility junction can be a problem.
Thank you, Councillor Devine. Next one I have is Whitley Kingbridge Road. Last one, request for double yellow lines. So happy with that one. Subcommittee, Whitley councillors, go forward. Yeah, so I got no indication. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So can we move to the next item now? Item 6. Item 6 is a resident permit parking proposal for statutory consultation and request for future investigation. So item 1, proceed with the scheme of statutory consultation. This report provides proposal for Sintra Close and Chilford Close and Grovelands Road and resident parking permit. RPP scheme has set in Appendix 1 to 3 and also provides an update on requests received by the Council for introduction of new RPP schemes which are set on Appendix 4. Can I ask James Penman to introduce the report?
Yes, thank you, Chair. So as you've introduced, another two-part report. So Part A, following some informal consultations that were conducted for a number of resident permit park or potential resident permit parking schemes, we've been working with members and developing concept plans and tweaked those, and we're now proposing 3 of those schemes to proceed to statutory consultation. So the Sintra Close, the Shilling Close area, and a large area around Grovelands Road. Obviously, there's still demand for resident permit parking elsewhere. So Part 2 of the report just updates the subcommittee on those requests that we've received elsewhere in the borough.
Thank you, James. I have Councillor Deb Absalom. I have David Absalom and Deborah Absalom indicated to speak on this.
Thank you, Chair. Just quickly to say welcome to the report. Thanks for the work that the officers have done, and obviously I look forward to Sintra Close going to statutory consultation. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry, apologies, Deb's Absalom. Did you indicate you wanted to speak or on this as well, or no?
Thank you, Chair. Since 2 of them are in my ward, yes, Shilling Close. It's a very good design by the officers, but there are obviously difficulties because there's a lot of areas that are not highways, and they are areas where some of the requests from residents came. So I think it's up to the ward councillors. We're writing to them. So we will proceed, but we'll write to them to try and make it clear what they will receive. As far as the Grovelands Road area, I want to jump up and down and clap my hands and celebrate. Yes, please go forward.
Yeah, thank you. I see no indication from any other councillors, so we'll proceed with this one with agreement. Thank you. Then item B is a request for the new RPP scheme. We now decide whether any of these requests on Appendix 4 to be removed from the list or whether we retain from the developments. I will invite members to make any recommendation for removal. So and this to be just noted, I think. Can this be noted?
I propose we note this unless there's any proposal to amend.
Agreed.
Yep.
Agreed.
Agreed. Do you agree? Okay, thank you. That's fully agreed then. Then we'll move on to the next item then. That's item 7, which is East Reading resident permit parking update. So could I ask, this report provides an update on East Reading resident parking permit scheme, and we are also asked to consider the methodology for renewing discretionary permit at the paragraph 4.11 of the report. I will ask Mr. James Penman to introduce the report.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So the East Reading scheme we've implemented in two parts. Area 1 was introduced in September 2019, Area 2 in August last year. So this report really summarises where we are today in terms of permit uptake, availability. It also makes reference to some of the queries that have been raised along the way and in the East Reading Study Steering Group, as well as a further response to the petition we had from Oaklands to be included in the scheme. So I hope this is useful information to the subcommittee, and by way of a high-level summary on what we're proposing with regards to the discretionary permit methodology, it's simply to make it easier for those who have received approval for a discretionary permit, that providing no circumstances change, that they can essentially get their permit renewed in much the same way as any other resident, and it just streamlines that process. So that's, in high level terms, what we're proposing to change for the methodology.
Thank you, Mr. Penman. I had indication from Councillor Rob White, who wishes to speak on this as well. Councillor Rob White, can I invite you?
Thank you, Chair. As a Park Ward councillor, this is focusing on the Oaklands element of the report. The rest of the scheme has worked well. So on Oaklands, as a Park Ward councillor, I do support the inclusion of Oaklands and some of the other properties excluded from the East Reading permit parking scheme into the scheme. Looking at Oaklands, they are more like a block of terraced housing than flats. Each property has got its own front door and it's accessed from a small front garden at ground level, much like many of the terrace properties in Newtown, for example. Oakland's properties do have some on-site parking. They do have a fairly large car park, but it isn't large when you divide it by the number of people living there, and many of the houses in the area have a driveway, so that's comparable. There are some garages on the Oakland site, but they are too small for modern cars, and they're owned separately from the properties, which makes updating them difficult, unfortunately. People do have to pay for their parking permits, as we're all very aware, so I very much doubt that if Oaklands was put into the scheme, that all of the residents there would all apply for their maximum 2 permits and saturate the scheme. It would be much as it is at the moment, where the people who struggle to park because their work means that they're getting back into the area at a time in the evening when parking pressure is at its highest. They can't get parked in the Oakland car park because it's often full, and so that means they park on the road, which they can do at the moment with a discretionary permit, but it would only be those people that I would imagine would apply for a proper permit were they put into the scheme. As the report highlights, there is space in the surrounding roads, and residents parking is meant to be for the benefit of residents, but if all the scheme does is it creates a lot of space on the roads which residents living in those same roads can't access, this doesn't seem fair. I'm not suggesting that all of the currently excluded properties are added in, but what I would like to see is us looking at this on a case-by-case basis and I think Oakland has made a good case for being included. So I think that they should be added to the addresses that are within this permit parking scheme, which would mean that they could get permits in the ordinary way rather than having the stress of having to apply each year. Thank you, Chair.
Right, thank you, Councillor White. Councillor Tony Page, you indicated speak next.
Thank you, Chair. Can I thank a number of the residents of Oaklands and their management company and various others that have kindly made me the recipient of their emails, which I have then forwarded, I think, to all members of the subcommittee. So everybody has shared the views received from residents. I have a lot of sympathy with residents in Oakland, and it is that sympathy which has led us throughout the introduction and bedding down of this scheme to look very sympathetically at applications that we have received for discretionary permits. And I'm aware that the only discretionary applications that have been turned down in Oaklands have been those that have been turned down because of inadequate documentation, as we would do with any other discretionary application. But I would invite colleagues to look at the implications of what Councillor White is proposing, because we cannot just pick and choose which flats he decides he feels should be included. There has to be some logic to the approach that we are adopting. And the logic so far, and this was discussed in the early stages of the scheme with the Park Ward councillors, was that flats with off-street parking would be excluded. And Oaklands, and I realise that many of the garages have either been sold off or are too small, but there is some off-street parking available. But that applies to places such as Oaklands and Charfield Court, Osterley Court, and these are in Hamilton Road, I realise, just over the way. But even Oaklands, if all of Oaklands were included on the basis that Councillor White is proposing, we can't just assume there will only be a handful more applications. We have to plan and manage a scheme on the basis of the potential take-up. With 50 flats at Oaklands, times 2, that would be the maximum entitlement of first and second permits. That already takes up all the available spaces, of which there are only 80 in Hamilton and Bullmarsh Road, because residents obviously would be parking as close to Oaklands as possible, and that would be therefore in either Hamilton or Bullmarsh. And we are told from the figures on page 89 that of available spaces 221 in Hamilton and Bullmarsh, already 141 have been taken up with permits. Now, not everybody parks at the same time, but overnight generally that is the case. So the maths don't stack up. And I would, through you, Chair, say to Councillor White that he will be the first one banging on our door if there are then complaints from residents in Hamilton Road and Bullmarsh that we have swamped it by including Oaklands as a matter of course. Now, the solution to this, Chair, is to say to residents of Oaklands and indeed the other flats along Hamilton and Bullmarsh that we will give sympathetic consideration to all applications for discretionary permits, as we have been doing. There is capacity for us so to do, and we will also, in order to be as helpful as possible, I'm proposing that we agree the recommendation in paragraph 4.11 that the process of renewal, subject to the residents remaining the same and obviously their vehicle details as well, the process of renewal will be automatic rather than having to come each year to the subcommittee. And I think that will further assist residents so that once they've made an application and that has been approved, then the process of renewal will be straightforward and in the same way as all other residents have to proceed. But Chair, I cannot propose to the subcommittee, and I would urge them not to agree to a blanket inclusion of Oaklands or any other of the blocks of flats at the moment, because then there would be a potential for a swamping of the area that would be irresponsible for us to allow. So whilst I understand the needs of residents of Oaklands and the other flats, I believe we can address that need through the discretionary process, which involves an email simply setting out, or a letter, setting out the requirement and the need and the justification that that person feels in wanting a discretionary permit. We will then consider it, as we are doing a number of others later this evening, and I hope that then, Chair, will assist residents in a way that is intended to. And residents' parking schemes are there to assist as many residents as possible. And what I'm suggesting is that we apply the case-by-case basis that Rob White, Councillor White, has just said what you should do for blocks of flats. I'm saying, no, we should apply the case-by-case basis to residents of all the flats in that area. And Chair, I would therefore propose that we support the officer recommendation that the current eligibility for the residents' parking permits remains unchanged, that we invite residents to submit any discretionary applications, and that the proposed change in paragraph 4.11 is agreed to simplify and facilitate the process of renewal for those residents of Oaklands and other flats who have been granted discretionary permits. I would so move, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Page. Councillor Jamie Whittingham, you indicate as well in the chat box you wish to speak.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so I agree with Councillor White, although I do agree with Councillor Page on the recommended action 2.3. I think it's would be good if there's automatic renewal on discretionary permits. But I don't agree with 2.2. So I'd like to vote against 2.2, but for 2.3 and 2.1. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Whittingham. All right. So can I don't see any more indications, so can I put to the subcommittee, are we content to agree with the officer's recommendation action?
Agreed. Oh, yeah, agreed.
Agreed. Agreed.
Okay, I think we have a majority of agreement there, so we can take this forward. Yeah.
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 Thank you, subcommittee. I'll move to the next item. Item 8. Item 8 is a request for new traffic management measures update list. We are asked to consider officers' recommendation for each of these new requests in Appendix 1, which relates to whether a scheme should remain on the list for further investigation. Appendix 2 provides a current list of request schemes and request for measures, which is currently held by the officers. We are asked to consider whether any of these or previous reports on items can be agreed or removed. I will ask James Penman to introduce the report first. Mr. Penman.
Yes, thank you, Chair. So as you've noted, the Appendix 1 provides the new requests, by which we mean requests that we've received for potential inclusion in the report since the last update to the subcommittee, and a decision on whether those schemes are moved onto the main list in Appendix 2. And Part B provides a update on the delivery of SIL schemes, which I'm pleased to say that even since the time of writing that report, there has been some very good progress all the way down the table in 4.7 to include Gosbrook Road, which I am led to believe was fully completed with the new surfacing today. So I hope that comes as good news. We are currently delivering the Redlands 20-mile-an-hour zone enhancements as well, and we'll then shortly be moving on to the final scheme, which will be the Oxford Road and Overdown Road pedestrian crossing enhancements.
Thank you, James. So now I will go through the list of requests by wards, setting Appendix 1, inviting members to comment on the scheme if they wish to do so. So Appendix 1 is, the first one I have is in Battle Ward, pedestrian crossing.
Yep, thank you,
Councillor
Chair.
Hacker.
Yep, can I just check? I believe it's west of Tesco. This request from a resident that I've put in for them, because it's basically what it is. The situation is that obviously we have a quite substantial crossing point by the Tesco entrance and West Village. There's nothing all the way west until you get to the crossing at Norcote Roundabout, and the resident has quite rightly pointed out how difficult it is to cross the road, and we have got housing that backs onto that part of Portman Road. So the crossing would be in between those points so people can access. In many people's cases, they've recently discovered the access through to the river by Scowers Lane, so get across the road to there, and also enjoy the occasional tipple at Double Barrel, but also it accesses other routes, and also the cycle lane on Portman Road as well is on the far side. So can I just check that it's west of Tesco? I think it is.
Mr. Penman.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, we'd certainly need to check that, but yeah, knowing the roads and a lot of the changes that are being made around there, I suppose there's a good argument actually for both sides. Something a bit closer to Cow Lane,
yes,
as well as the other side, which Councillor Hackey you rightly say is a pretty straight bit of road with not a lot of facilities along there. So. With your agreement, I think we could probably expand that to say that there would be a really good case for some crossing enhancements both sides. Yeah. Perhaps if we can source some funding for that, and that it's only going to deliver one, we could take a decision then on where the priority would be at the time.
Absolutely agree. That would be fantastic, because and I mean, there's hordes of people now obviously going onto Cow Lane as well, and we do have the new development going on at West Village, and so yeah, to have a crossing closer to the bridges, which means people could safely access Cow Lane through to the new pool and facilities at Rivermead, to the river, and also the cycle lane on that side of the road too. Obviously you'd get off to do that, would make the road so much safer. It's 30 miles an hour now, which is an improvement, but it's still a nightmare to get across. So having both on the list would be fantastic. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Hacker. So we're in support of that subcommittee. Are we in agreement? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, the next one. Thank you. The next one we have is in Peppard Ward, pedestrian crossing in 20 mile zone, Lowfield Road. So I'll ask the ward councillor if they want to comment. Support. Yeah, we didn't get any indication, so we're in support with that one. Subcommittee, do you approve?
Chair, Yeah, can I suggest that if no one has any comments, I assume that they just want to leave it as it is because it's recommended to be retained.
Right, thank you. Next one I have is in Redlands, speed calming, Eldon Terrace. Any comments?
Yeah.
Yeah, Chair, if you could just leave that in, that'd be good. It says retain.
Thank you, Councillor. And next one, Tarless. Last one, speed traffic, Conway Close.
This is Conway Close again. We've brought Conway Close up already this evening when we were talking about parking restrictions. But essentially, we need officers to sort out a scheme to manage the safety of people at school drop-off and pick-up times, because that's essentially the problem there. So please retain it.
Yep, well, thank you, Councillor. We'll retain that. Thank you. Right, thank you, subcommittee. So we'll move on to now appendix. Item B is a scheme to propose for consultation. So we'll move to Appendix 2 now. Yeah.
I just propose we note these. We've had them all before. Unless anybody wants to propose a specific removal, there's no need to go through these because we've been through this many times before.
Okay.
Second that, Con.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Is the subcommittee happy? I'm sure you looked at all the papers, everything. We're happy with the 4.
Yeah, I did wish to raise one that shouldn't be on that list. It's number 34 in Kentwood. I thought we removed it at the last time this came to committee. It's about the entrance and exit of a car wash on the Oxford Road that doesn't exist. So there's no point in us putting markings where the car wash doesn't exist. So it should be removed, not retained.
Okay. Number 34, Kentwood Road marking. Thank you. Remove. Right. Any more? Are we all in agreement? So can we move to the next item? Yeah.
Agreed.
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 You. Right. Item 9 is the Berkeley Avenue zebra crossing. This report seeks a subcommittee agreement to necessary statutory council proceeding to enable us to deliver a zebra crossing on Berkeley Avenue. I will ask Mr. Beasley to introduce the report.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to add, Chair. You just introduced the report for exactly its purpose. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I would, I know Councillor, I will call Councillor Liz Terry. She's indicated she wishes to speak.
Thank you, Chair. Just to welcome the report, the subcommittee agreed to put a new crossing in place last year. I just want to say that last year there were some conversations, a meeting in fact, with officers and the petitioners who also expressed a view about concerns about a right turn into Ashley Road. None of us want to hold up the statutory consultation on the zebra crossing, and just to note that Mr. Beasley has agreed to have a meeting soon, I hope, with those petitioners so that we can just have some further discussion about the technicalities of that. But I welcome this report and hope the subcommittee will agree to it going ahead.
Thank you, Councillor Liz Terry. I don't see any indication in the chat box or anybody else. So can we continue with the agreement of the officer's recommendation on the scheme subcommittee? We agree?
Right.
Agreed.
Move to the next item, which is item 10. This is item 10 is Battle Street car park. This report advised the subcommittee proposed to make a formal changes of central swimming pool car park from the building associated pay and display car park to public pay and display car park and rename it to Battle Street car park. Can I ask Mr. Beasley to introduce the report?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I mean, the report itself is pretty straightforward. It is just asking to go through the statutory process to set the tariff for this car park. This car park was offered to us a long time ago now, but has never been accessible because of the demolition and some materials stored in the car park and so forth. And then COVID came along and it didn't really seem relevant at the time. And what's prompted bringing this forward right now is the fact that we now have a roadmap out of COVID. So there's some relevance to just opening up some car parking here. It is only temporary. It's not going to be there forever, but it's just to make use of that piece of land and just bring in a little bit of additional income for the council.
Thank you, Mr. Beasley. Can I ask Councillor Page is indicated to speak on this, and then I'll put it to other councillors if they wish to speak.
Briefly, Chair, just to emphasise the point that Mr. Beasley just made, that this obviously will be a temporary car park pending work starting on delivering one of Reading's most exciting and innovative council housing developments of a mixed use that Policy Committee recently approved, that will benefit a wide range of elderly and also those people on the council housing waiting list. But clearly planning permission, there's further design work and planning permission still to be secured on that site. So in the meantime, it makes good sense to use what was the old car park for the central swimming pool as a temporary car park on the basis proposed. It will be safely secured, as paragraph 4.5 explains, and the tariff set out in Appendix One will obviously be intended to benefit shoppers rather than long stay commuters, and will obviously contribute to the council's stretched financial resources for that interim period. So I would commend this, Chair, to the subcommittee. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Page. I don't see any more indication for any councillors in the chat box. So can we contend to agree with the officer's recommendation?
Agreed.
Thank you, subcommittee. Okay. Now we'll move on to item 10A, which is additional item. It's Abattoir Road. This report, no right turning, result of consultation. This report sets out objections that has been received from Thames Valley Police seeking the subcommittee to approve, to implement or otherwise the schemes recommended as advertised. Can I ask Mr. Beasley to introduce this and give a bit more update on this? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, I mean, it's always disappointing when we receive an objection to a scheme. The objection is there for us all to see. I mean, you know, as we well know, the police aren't going to prioritise moving traffic offences of this nature, and really on that basis, you know, they are going to object to it. But I mean, our hope and our expectation is that the government will open up the opportunity for us to decriminalise moving traffic offences and bring them into our civil enforcement activities. So, you know, sometime in the hopefully near future, we'll be able to enforce this type of restriction ourselves anyway. But you know, it is what it is, I think is all I can say.
Thank you, Mr. Beasley. Can I ask Councillor Tony Page, who's indicated you wish to speak?
Chair, Simon Beasley was very diplomatic. I would be slightly less so and say I find it depressing to read submissions of this sort from Thames Valley Police, which only draws attention to the fact that there are areas of traffic enforcement that still rest with them that frankly should not. And moving traffic offences are shortly to be transferred to local authorities, or enforcing against moving traffic offences is to be transferred to local authorities such as Reading. The government has made that welcome announcement. Those are powers that London authorities already have and exercise very effectively. We could use cameras to enforce as well. And as was the point made by Councillor Lovelock and Councillor Absam earlier in respect of 20-mile-an-hour speed limits, given a very low priority by the police, and we can understand why. They have had reductions in their resources in the last 10 years and give those enforcement priority a very low priority, but that doesn't mean they shouldn't take place. And we as a local authority are in a better position to enforce not only the sorts of restrictions we're discussing here at Abattoirs Road, but also the wider enforcement of 20-mile-an-hour zones. It's a dialogue that we will be continuing to have with the police, and I have a meeting very shortly arising from the exchange that some colleagues will remember at Policy Committee in January with John Campbell, the Chief Constable, and the Police and Crime Commissioner. I have a meeting in 2 weeks' time with the Thames Valley Police lead on speed issues to take further forward this dialogue, because Reading will not ease off the campaign and pressure for the transfer of speed enforcement powers to the council. And likewise with moving traffic offences, as soon as we get the opportunity from government, hopefully in the summer, we will bid to take over those powers or make formal application to take over those powers. So hopefully in future, we won't be receiving such depressing submissions from Thames Valley Police. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Page. I don't see any more indication in the chat box, and I'll still ask, does any member of subcommittee want to speak on these items? Thank you. Now, can I ask the subcommittee, are we in agreement with the officer's recommendation?
Agreed.
Agreed. Agreed. Thank you very much. Subcommittee. Now that concludes the part of this meeting, public meeting, to a close. Thank you very much, everybody, for attending. The next is item 11.
You need to read out the resolution, the pass the motion.
Yep. That concludes tonight's meeting. So the next one, I need to move a motion that pursuant section of 100A of Local Government Act 1972 as amended, councillors of the press and public to be excluded during the consideration of the following items on the agenda. It's likely that there will be a disclosure of exempt information defined in paragraph 1 and 2 of part 1 of the schedule 12A of that act. Can I ask member of public and press to leave the meeting? Thank you.